All right, welcome everybody to the next webinar in the Small Business Management Series. I am Nathan Owens with UC San Diego Extension. Thank you for tuning in. And glad to see some familiar names showing up there. Let me quickly run through the agenda for today's webinar, and then we will get into Chris's talk. So, welcome, I'm Nathan. We are going to record this session for the ability to post it onto UC San Diego Extension's YouTube channel to be a resource for you if you want to refer back to it later, and also for others out there who weren't able to tune into the webinar today. Our speaker today is Chris Foster, a repeat speaker in the Small Business Management Series, for which I am very, very grateful for. Chris is a vice president for new business at Modern Postcard, which is a direct marketing firm. And he can tell you a little bit more about that as he gets into his presentation. He's also been an instructor for UC San Diego Extension since 2009, which is fantastic. So Chris, thank you for taking the time today to speak on storytelling to authentically captivate your customers. As we are going through Chris's talk, if you have questions, go ahead and throw those into chat. Chris will keep an eye on that. I will also. And then if we don't address it right then and there, we will get into the Q&A at the end. So feel free to throw your questions in at any time. If you are not familiar with UC San Diego Extension, we are the professional and continuing education arm of the university. We have a huge range of courses from anything from foreign languages to RF engineering to clinical trials management, K through 12 programs that cover a pretty wide range. So if you have any interest in adding some additional skills to your portfolio, you can take a look at that URL down below. And our instructors are primarily working professionals like Chris Foster, so you can get a wealth of hands-on practical knowledge when you sign up for our courses. For the Small Business Management Series, I have a couple partners that I've been working with over the last couple of years. They've hosted these sessions in their downtown San Diego facilities when we were doing them in person, and I look forward to doing them in person again at some point in the future. So these are Downtown Works and Cross Campus San Diego location. As for the Small Business Management Series itself, I have a session scheduled in September, on September 10th, with Michael McGinnis, another instructor for Extension, and that will be how to be more strategic with your talent acquisition, which is an important topic these days, particularly as things are kind of changing with all the work from home and all that. There's also a parallel webinar series that some colleagues of mine are running in the Leadership and Management Essentials series. And I will drop links to this stuff in chat in just a second, but you can go ahead and check those out. More will be scheduled for October in a little bit. Okay, as far as this series, you can go to this URL and see what's coming up next. And I am also looking to schedule more stuff for October and November. I try to source all of my topics from the community, people such as yourselves, because I want to make it as relevant as possible. So if you do have ideas, I would be very, very happy to get them from you. So you can drop them into chat or you can email me afterwards. With over 1,000 instructors like Chris Foster at Extension, there's a pretty good chance that I can find a subject matter expert to run a session that could be relevant and important and useful for you. So please do let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions. All right, with that, I will stop sharing my screen and I will let Chris take it from here. It's all yours, Chris.
Great, welcome in everybody. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad to see all of you. Welcome to folks from Portland to Toronto to Tunisia to San Diego to Houston to London to Edinburgh. It's wonderful to see all of you. I'm going to turn off my video as we get started into the presentation. And like Nathan had mentioned, if you don't mind, I'd like to actually answer questions and do that at the end. So either through Q&A or through the chat, just go ahead and post them down. And I'll address those at the very end because the presentation has a flow to it, and it works a little bit better, and the story unfolds a little bit better if we can get through it, okay? So I'm going to turn off my video first, and I find that the connection usually is a little bit better if the video is off, and we can just go into the presentation. So I'll stop the video and I will start the presentation now. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Storytelling for business. If for some reason you cannot see this screen, go ahead and send me a quick chat. Otherwise, I think we're good to go. We're good to go. Okay, storytelling for business. You've heard a lot about storytelling. If you Google storytelling for marketing or storytelling for business, it's been talked about frequently. In the last several years, it's been getting more prominence. And the reason is that it works. It just works. Communicating via storyline is a really effective way to engage and captivate customers. And that's why we're all here today. And we are going to jump right in. Okay. I said we're going to jump right in. We are. I am Chris Foster. I'm VP of New Business Development at Modern Postcard, also an instructor at UCSD Extension, now over 10 years, over a decade. You can always email me, christopherkfoster@gmail.com. And then if you have any questions or if you want to connect afterwards, I'm proud to represent UC San Diego Extension. Wonderful service they provide to folks who are looking at career changes and want some of that career advancement. Also for international students who are coming in and learning how to acquire business skills kind of in a more of American style. So I teach a brand strategy and positioning class for UCSD Extension. It's been a delight and I'm honored to be here today to share some of that class concepts with you. There is a special offer, true. At the end of this, I'm going to send a link on chat, and it's an ebook that I authored for Modern called How Print Marketing Lights Up Your Customer's Brain for More Sales. I'm going to dive in a little bit about the neurology and the biology of the brain today and the neuroscience talking about print. But this ebook goes into much more detail about that. So I'll send you that link at the end. That's a free ebook that you can read. We also do a webinar series at Modern as well, and this is one of those topics. Okay. This is a true statement. Everyone loves a story. Everyone. When you were little and you were being read to by folks or guardians or family members, you just remember those books, you remember those stories, and you get into it. And everyone loves hearing a story, everyone. And one of the things that is so interesting is whether you're from Houston or from Edinburgh or Tunisia or San Marcos or San Diego or London, you still have stories. And it's been that way forever. It's the one thing where human beings have been united about, and there's a common element and a common thread. All human beings from all cultures and all times have love stories. So we're going to talk a couple of stories today. This first story is a story of conversion. So I teach at UCSD Extension, like I said, the brand strategy class. And one of the things that I do is I do a field trip. So we go to UTC, which is a mall here in San Diego. It's an outdoor mall. It's gorgeous and wonderful. And I do that because I ask the students to compare and contrast brands in their online experience versus their in-store experience. So I say, visit these stores online, and then we're going to go visit those stores in person. And let's take a look at the difference. How is their story told? What is their branding like? What's the experience like, etc. And so walking out of Lush one day, one of my students who had never been to Lush, Stephania, she's now working at Balboa Park. She walked out and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I'm such a convert. This place is awesome." And I was like, oh, what an interesting phrase. And she just used the phrase convert just in casual speak, but it's interesting because typically the source of convert and conversion oftentimes implies belief. I convert to Christianity. I convert to Judaism. I convert to Islam, right? There's this, and that's a faithful leap. That's a leap of moving your heart and mind from one place to the next. A conversion, right? And that's a lot of what I'm talking about is this leap of faith and more importantly, a leap of belief. And Lush does a beautiful job of telling their story so that people convert to their way of looking at the world. Lush does a beautiful job of inviting their customers. They invite their customers to believe what they believe. and they invite them to believe in what you do. Right, so Lush has, clearly they're promoting LGBTQ rights. They have a Get Naked campaign because they have fresh handmade cosmetics, right? All their cosmetic and their beauty products and their soaps and their baths, so it's all handmade and it's all free from chemicals and dyes and it's all natural. There's no animal testing. So their Get Naked is kind of, we have real, naked products. So they said, sure, we'll all get naked. So they had a Get Naked day. So their employees just wore aprons. But it's a whole culture that they've created and a belief system that they put in play. And the belief system is actually a really important part of great brands and great storytelling. I like Simon Sinek a lot. I think he's a very smart person, and he articulates some really good concepts. And one of his phrases that I like so well is, the goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe. You can't do business with everybody, but the people who believe what you believe, you have a more authentic connection where the lines between the business and the community become blurred, and it's an entire ecosystem or an entire community. Brands like REI, brands like Patagonia have real loyal followings because there's a belief system that both the customer and the company buy into. And the reason that that's going to be important for anybody who is in business is that Generation Zs, which is going to be the largest consumer group by 2026, that's just in 5 years, more Gen Zs support businesses who align with their beliefs and their causes. So members of Gen Z are also willing to take that support away too. More than 65% would stop purchasing or supporting a brand that didn't have the same values. That is so important. It's astonishing. It means that you're not just communicating on a transactional level with your customers. You're communicating in an authentic and cultural level. You're communicating in a way in which those Gen Z customers believe what you believe and buy into your beliefs. And you got to meet them where they are because they're going to have the purchasing power. And one of the things that happens too is with all of the communications that occur, we are getting absolutely overwhelmed. Forbes did a study and we are 4,000 to 10,000 marketing messages per day. Now, granted, this shot was taken before COVID, but even looking at this for a moment, look at all of the messaging here. And this is, of course, it's Times Square. It's a lot of messaging. But even here, all of just the billboards, and then look at all the people and think about all the messages those people are getting on their phones. So if I'm a person in that crowd, not only am I staring at probably hundreds of messages around me physically, but I'm also getting hundreds of messages on my phone throughout the hour. So as consumers, there's a lot of input and there's a lot happening to our brains all the time. And we're very distracted. We spend about 3 hours per day on our phone. That's an average. Some people spend 6 hours. I've seen it with some of my kids. But we are distracted. We have a lot of messages coming in, and then we're also moving from one idea to the next constantly. And there's a new concept that's come out, a neurological concept that people are studying due to the barrage of digital communication that comes our way, and it's called cognitive load. We experience a lot of cognitive load in our lives, and the average person can hold about 3 to 4 things in their mind at once. That's about it, right? But the load itself is so critical, and here's where it plays out. Even doing the research for this presentation and others about working memory and intelligence and distractions and neurological studies and stuff, just check this website out and look at this. All that stuff in red is the distraction. My notifications, my social, my ads, my digital ads, all around. And really all I'm looking at is the content in the middle, the green content. Sometimes you become blind to it, right? I don't even see all that stuff, but it's there, right? And I guarantee it's a lot easier to read a book than it is to look at content on the screen because there's so much around there. And really, I just want to focus on the content in the middle. So it's a challenge to really kind of wade through all of those marketing messages. Now, if I'm Shay Holmes, which is in the upper right-hand corner, I'm like, come on, look at my ad. New homes in San Diego, it's blue, and it's white text on a blue background, and I've got a black button and white text of learn more with an arrow. Come on, you gotta click on this ad, right? But actually, I'm not there for the ad, I'm there for the content. But Shay Holmes is saying, hey, I really want to communicate. I really want to connect with you. I really want you to click on this ad. It's a challenge, right? It's a challenge not only for me as a reader, it's also a challenge for them as advertiser. And it's also the same on Facebook. So I do a lot of swimming in La Jolla Cove. And so we post all of our swimming stuff, gobbledygook. And then I see this article and I'm like, oh, that's right, it's true. It is true that if you do, you remember things better when you write them down by hand. It's actually a true thing. But anyway, I'm interested in that. Maybe I'll click on that and move away, and suddenly I'm lost into NPR and looking at the article. Or if I keep scrolling, I see this message from L.L. Bean, and then I see my neighbor's dog and his beer, and I'm like, oh wait, what was that? Oh, that was L.L. Bean. That's not a bad message, right? Down for anything. It's, I get it. But with all of the distractions, I just skip right over it, right? Now they're still in an advertiser and they still want to get my attention, but that's really tough. It's tough to do. And then the message has to be so clear and compelling for me to stop what I'm doing with all of my scrolling to come back and say, oh, I really want to do this. It says the fun doesn't stop when the temperature drops. Being outside or down for anything. Shop outerwear, shop now. Okay, I get they want me to stop, but boy, there's got to be a really compelling message for me to stop what I'm doing and dive in and see what they have to say. And those next generations that we talked about will have really high expectations. I'll say it again because it bears repeating. In 2026, Generation Z will be the largest consumer group. This is a generation that has not known life without the interwebs, right? I'm old enough, I was born in the late 1800s, and I remember going to work before there was an interweb, right? We actually conducted business on phone and mail and fax and stuff. This generation has no idea what that's like. Instant messaging, instant information, right? They can see anything, they can watch anything, wherever they want to watch it, whenever they want to watch it. So they've got a lot of high expectations about how they engage with brands and how brands speak to them. And they can spot BS. 88% of buyers are influenced by their decisions by reviews, right? So there's a lot of non-marketing stuff that they're listening to and reading, right? They're hearing other influences and they're responding to other influences beside the marketing message you're sending out. So the question that all businesses have, how do you get customers to listen to you? How do you do it with all this distraction? Well, the good news is everyone loves a story. That is good news. Whether you're younger or whether you're older, everyone loves a story, right? And so now we're going to talk about this characteristic of storytelling and why it's so baked into the DNA of the human being, right? Whether you were in Mesopotamia in 500 BCE or whether you're in the plains of North America in the 1100s or whether you were in Bavaria in Germany in the 1450s or whether you were in China in the late 2000s, right? It doesn't matter, right? Every culture and every person, every age, they love a story. And the brains are hardwired to respond to stories. And what they're doing now is really interesting MRI studies and figuring out where and why the brain responds to different things. Because a lot of the new technology for brain studies and MRI is able to pick up where we're actually learning and how the brain actually works and responds. So when subjects read a descriptive metaphor rather than plain text, the sensory receptors in the cortex lit up. What's interesting about this is description rather than a descriptive metaphor, rather than just a description, is what engages us. And I don't know if anyone listening today is a Star Trek fan or has watched Star Trek The Next Generation, but there was one episode where, they meet all these, crazy planets and crazy aliens and stuff like that. But one of these aliens they were having a hard time communicating with because they spoke in metaphor. They use the same language, but they would say things, his eyes are open, meaning the person understands, or we go with sails unfurled, meaning they're off, to their, it is a beautiful story, but they talked only in metaphor. And we respond to metaphors as human beings. Cognitive science has long recognized narrative as a basic organizing principle of memory. Accuracy is not the main objective, but coherence is. And I like to think of the story of the young child on the left who grows up to be the young woman on the right. Right? So imagine this young child on the left. She's sitting in her high chair. She's got some Cheerios or some eggs or something like that. She's watching mom and dad cook breakfast. And there's there's some love, there's communication, and maybe dad gives mom a little kiss on the cheek while they're cooking eggs and stuff. The child remembers that family moment. The child has the sensory memory of the smells of breakfast, of the visual of mom and dad being together, laughing, talking with one another, the light coming in, right? The child will never remember what was actually for breakfast. Was it scrambled eggs or was it a basted egg? Was it ham or was it bacon? It's irrelevant. What they remember is the family moment, right? We remember the moments, and so there are these ideas of narrative and story that really pull into our memory functions, and we remember this stuff better. I love this one. So, if you look at it, this is a cave painting from 30,000 years ago. Now we do know that messages delivered as stories are 22 times more memorable than just facts. So let's take a look at this image, right? You've got the antelope, you've got some hunters, but look at that figure in the right, the second from the top, the human figure, second from the top on the right. What's different about that? Well, what's different, yes, you're right. What's different is that it's a smaller person. Half the size of the person at the very top. Maybe it's the boy. Maybe it's the boy on the first hunt, right? Boys going on the very first tribal hunt. How important, not only is a milestone and a rite of passage for that young child, but also the rite of passage for the tribe. Because the tribe has to survive to the next generation, meaning they have to teach the young people how to hunt. The tribe's survival depends on the rite of passage for the young person being successful, right? It's the story of the first hunt. It's a story of the preservation of the whole tribe. That's the story. And I guarantee you, 30 minutes from now or 5 slides from now or 2 weeks from now, when someone says, oh yeah, there's a cave painting and Foster talked about the young boy, like the hunt and the rite of passage and how critical it is for the survival of the tribe, that's what you'll remember. You won't remember that there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 little antelope there. How many antelope were there? That doesn't matter. How many arrows were there? That doesn't matter. What matters is the story. What matters is the story of the rite of passage, right? And so that's where thinking about how story becomes more memorable, that's where you really start engaging the power of the storytelling device to engage with your customers. Using stories to reach the brains of your customers. There's a biological reason that stories connect so deeply with us. So we're going to go into it a little bit. Now, I am not a brain scientist, but I use this for the presentation because it's true. There are 3 major parts of the brain that we're going to talk about, and they all have an influence when it comes to story. There's the cerebral cortex, there's the amygdala, and there's the hippocampus. The cerebral cortex is words, reasoning, and planning. The amygdala is where emotion is, and the hippocampus is where long-term memory is. Now just pause for a minute and see where those arrows for the amygdala and the hippocampus go. Right. Those 2 areas of the brain are right next to each other biologically, physiologically. They're placed right next to each other. Emotion and long-term memory in the core of the brain. It's what develops first. Anyone who's raised teenagers knows that the cerebral cortex develops last, right? I come in, where's your shoe? I don't know. Wait, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know? I don't know. Wait, you came home with 1 shoe. Where'd the shoe go? What? What, right? I'm sure you've had conversations like that. So the cerebral cortex develops last as we grow, but the emotion long-term memory goes first. That's why you have these basic memories when you're a little kid. Everyone has these basic memorable moments when they're small, when they're 3, 4, 5 years old. It's also why you remember your first kiss, your very first kiss. Now, it could have been good or bad, but you remember it. That emotion and that long-term memory is packed right into that moment, and you remember it forever. That biologically, that's where this stuff goes. And that's why storytelling can be so powerful, because emotional responses to what we read may help determine what we remember. It's right there, right at the amygdala and the hippocampus, that emotion and the memory. So I'm going to talk about a story of love, and it plays right into just what I mentioned about the biology of the brain. This is a great story. So my neighbor Eileen, whom I love, had a dog named Carson. Clearly, I used the word had, past tense. She also had an old Volvo. I mean, and this Volvo was a tank. It was huge. It was like half the block. You could fit like 80 people in it. Anyway, this old Volvo, and Carson, would go on adventures, right? She'd pop open the back. Carson would hop into the back. And of course, the seats were down this flatbed, and they'd go off and they'd do their thing, right? Carson's awesome. And Carson started to get sick, and Carson got old, and the car was really old. And I said, Eileen, come on, this car, really? And she's like, I know, but Carson loves this car, and I'm not going to get a new car until Carson passes. And so I understood that. So finally, sadly, Carson got older and Carson passed. And then Eileen came home with a new car. And I said, okay, Eileen, I teach brand strategy. I've got to ask, why this car? She said, well, I had a choice of 2 cars. They kind of went to the final moment. I had a choice of a Ford Escape or the Subaru Crosstrek. And I said, well, she said, well, they're kind of exactly the same car. Like exactly the same. Driving them is great, and they're both easy. They're both kind of this 4-wheely thing. I can feel comfortable in it. I feel really safe. And the Ford's got this great warranty, an amazing warranty, and it's got a lower price. I was like, oh, okay. She said, well, I've been seeing these ads from Subaru. And they've got these dogs, and they look just like Carson. I was like, and in the showroom at Subaru, they had these bowls, and they had these bowls with water, and they had bowls like for dogs to come in. I said, so the Ford has a better warranty and a lower price, or Carson? What's the choice? Well, you know the choice. When you think about the cerebral cortex, the amygdala, and the hippocampus, the cerebral cortex is about the better warranty and the lower price. The amygdala and the hippocampus, emotion and long-term memory, that's Carson. So what car did she buy? Everybody knows what car she bought. She bought the Subaru. Of course she did. Carson always wins. So it's absolutely the second piece to take. Number 1, Generation Z, largest consumer group in 2026. Big number 2, Carson always wins. Always. 100 out of 100 times. Memory and emotion always wins over reason and planning. Always. Because we're humans. That's what happens. And stories are memorable and emotional. I'm hopeful that some of you at least, know where this is coming from. This is Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are. This is one of the greatest works of art from all time, from my perspective. I've got about 15 greatest works of art, and this makes the list. It's about Max, who is donning his wolf suit, making mischief of one kind and another, and his mom says, Max, off to your room. And Max says, I'll eat you up. She's like, okay, you're off to your room. And the story unfolds, a beautiful story where it starts off small, these small little vignettes, and then it grows. And so in the middle of the book are these huge spreads where Max says, "Let the wild rumpus begin." And so he's with the wild things in the land of the wild things. And the spreads are full bleed spreads, both pages. They call them double truck in the industry. So all pages, and it's huge. And then as the story unfolds and he ends up going back, sailing back home from the land of the wild things, the pictures get smaller. It's really a story about a temper tantrum. It's about how children go crazy as a temper tantrum and come back home, but they're always safe to come back home. It's an extraordinary book, and I first read it when I was probably 5 or so. My mom was reading it to me, and it's indelible. It's baked into my brain. And the interesting thing about stories is that they're memorable and emotional. And the good news is that they have a simple structure that we understand. Humans understand the storytelling structure, and it is the same for every single story that's out there. You can plot it out. Now, of course, it changes because we want different stories, but the structure is exactly the same. It begins with a hero, right? Carol Danvers, Elizabeth Bennet, the Joad family, Max in his wolf suit, Anansi the spider. All heroes start these stories, right? It's a person, it's a human, or a dog or something, but it's a hero. The hero faces a villain. Whether it's, going through adventures, clearly Darth Vader is the villain everybody knows. Will it be Jog-Rog? Or for the Jodes in the lower left-hand corner is the Dust Bowl. Now, the best villains are universal, big, big, big villains. In The Grapes of Wrath, tells the story of the Jode family, a microcosm of this family. They relocate from Oklahoma and go to California. And the story is about their individual story, but it's also about the bigger story. It pulls out and shows the macro tale of all these folks coming through. And the villain wasn't necessarily the cop or the crummy farmer who beats on them. And the villain actually began much earlier. In the early 1900s, as the American settlers moved west, we tore up all the prairie grass in the middle of the country and we planted cotton and other crops. Cotton in particular is a water killer. It just sucks up tons and tons of water. And what it did is pull all the nutrients out of the Midwest soil. And so when the soil started to get dry and crumbly and bad and couldn't sustain itself and the winds came, that's why the Dust Bowl happened. And it depleted all these farmers. And of course, those farmers didn't own the land. The banks owned the land. And the banks were like, well, I guess we'll foreclose on the farm. Oh, you live there? Sorry. Right? So the villain wasn't just the one crummy cop who was giving them a hard time. The villain was the system, something bigger than they couldn't control and was there before they could control it. The best villains in any story are larger than a person. They're a macro villain, right? Darth Vader's a villain. Yeah, that's okay, but it's the dark side of the Force. That's a villain. John Rogg is not a villain, yes, but it's the Kree. If you ever saw Captain Marvel, that's the villain, right? It's the larger forces who's the real villain that everybody faces, and that helps because the hero isn't alone. They're not alone in facing the villain. We're all this hero facing that big collective villain. Thankfully, though, the hero meets a mentor. Yoda is the most obvious one, right? Different folks from different literature, right? From Pride and Prejudice, and then the Sky God, and Marvel or Gandalf, right? These are mentors, and the mentor calls that hero to action. He's not only a guide that has empathy and a plan, but they call that hero to action. They say, you hero have to take that step. But once you take that step, I'm here. So you don't have to do it alone. But you call that hero so the hero takes the step themselves. The hero embarks on a journey, right? Up to the sky, land of the wild things, a journey into love, or a journey to find herself. And once they embark on that journey, they undergo a transformation. Always. That's just how it works. That's just how the stories work. There's a hero, meets a villain, finds a mentor, goes on a journey, undergoes a transformation. All stories are like this because it's powerful. And even me just telling you, I'm sure that, you know, in our virtual places, you're all nodding your head. You're like, of course, that's it. That's the story. So the big question and reason we're all here today is, how does this apply to your business? How can you harness the power of a storytelling structure to apply it to how you write messages to captivate your customers? Well, let's go through it. There's the hero. Hero is your customer. That's the hero. The villain, that's their challenge. The mentor, well, guess what? Who's that? It's you. You, the business. You are the mentor. And what's that journey? It's a service or the product that you provide. And lastly, is the transformation. It's the transformation. It's the promise that you offer that customer. So let's go into this a little bit about the transformation. Every business has a different transformation. But in my experience, I've learned that there's only 3 major kinds of transformations. While it might be different specifically for every business, there are only really 3 kinds of transformations that I've seen. Here we go. The 3 kinds of customer transformations. 1 is functional, so customers live better. Alexa helps you turn on she who must not be named. She provides a very functional transformation. I can listen to music or news or buy stuff. I live a little bit easier. Emotional, the emotional transformation. That's so customers feel better, right? Oftentimes you would argue that a clothing store, someone like Kate Spade or Everlane would say, it's just a functional. It's like, no. Clothes are very emotional. People feel better when they look better. There's an emotional transformation that happens. And lastly, the most powerful of all is the moral transformation. That's so customers become better. How do I be better than I was? I guarantee everybody listening on this presentation, you want to be better. You want to be better at something tomorrow than you are today. A better cook, a better chef, be more kind, more empathy, be more successful in your work. Doesn't matter. You want to be better. Humans generally have this desire and yen to be better than they are now. Move forward, make progress. The moral transformation that a business provides is so powerful, helping customers become the better version of themselves. That's really what the mentor does, to call that customer to become better than they are right now. So let's go into this a little bit. We're going to unplug my headset. All right, you should still be able to hear me. Yes, you can hear me. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to be showing a video. And the video, I'm going to stop my share real. Oh, I didn't mean to stop the share. I'm going to share this screen again. Sorry. Haha, just joking. Them's just jokes. Okay, here we go. Great. Now we are going to see some of these videos. I'm going to show you a functional transformation. This is Lemonade Insurance. Let me get rid of this. Here's Lemonade Insurance. Lemonade Insurance is going to tell the story in 30 seconds, and it's going to be a functional transformation.
Old insurance kinda sucks, but Lemonade is different. When you pay us, we take a small flat fee. The rest goes to covering your stuff. So if something happens, we pay super fast. That's what you get when you have bots instead of brokers and algorithms instead of paperwork. Best part, leftover money goes to nonprofits you care about. Seriously, that's Lemonade. Insurance powered by AI and driven by social good.
Check this out, 27 seconds, and they did everything, right? The hero, of course, is you. And who's the villain? Old insurance. Because old insurance kind of sucks. That's the villain. And then, of course, they're the mentor. They go through that journey. It's a very quick functional transformation that they provide. And they did it in about 30 seconds, right? Really nice, tight job. Now, that's kind of your functional transformation. Now, let's go through an emotional transformation. This is P&G. I'm going to do a full screen on this because I still think this should work pretty well. Here we go.
This is 跟上岁吧。Time to get up, baby. Come on. Appliquez. Ou que eu faça café da manhã gostoso pra você.
P&G, proud sponsor of Moms.
All right. And if you're not crying after that, I can't help you. Right? It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. You know, and think if you're P&G and you're in a marketing person at P&G and you're trying to communicate and you're thinking, gosh, what am I selling? I'm selling Tide. I'm selling Tide,
P&G,
Pampers, Duracell batteries. When you're like, Foster, how do you tell a story about Duracell? How could this work for Tide? How can you tell a story about Tide? But think about the story structure. Clearly, mom is hero. Who's the villain? Who's the villain in that? It's daily life. It's the everyday. Mom wakes up first. Gotta wake up, child. Come on, child. Come on, let's go have breakfast. I'm gonna cook you breakfast. Here, we'll make you breakfast. Let's pack your lunch. Let's get you off the school bus. Okay, now I'm gonna go. I'm gonna wash those dishes. I'm gonna do this laundry. Oh, I'm gonna fold that laundry. Oh, I'm gonna pick you up from school. I'm gonna bring you back. I'm gonna cook you dinner. Okay, and now I'm gonna wash those dishes. And now I'm gonna put you to bed. And now I'm gonna fold that laundry again. Oh, and I'm gonna wake up in the next morning before you do. I'm gonna wake you up. And then I'm gonna make you breakfast and I'm gonna clean dishes and then I'm gonna do, it's everyday life, right? It's everyday life. That's just a struggle. And what P&G recognizes is that, you know, we can be not only just to provide these products and these mentors, we've got a product for you, but I've got empathy. I understand and I support and I rally around mom, right? That is the story that they're telling, and that emotional transformation of, yeah, I believe you because really you believe in me. We talked about that at the very beginning of the presentation. Believing is so important. So there's your emotional transformation, right? If you guys need to take a moment, I understand. Last one is going to be always. Always is a moral transformation. It's played at the Super Bowl, by the way. This is when it was introduced.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Show me what it looks like to fight like a girl. Now throw like a girl. Aww. So do you think you just insulted your sister?
No. I mean, yeah, insulted girls, but not my sister.
My name is Dakota, and I'm 10 years old.
Show me what it looks like to run like a girl. Grow like a girl. Fight like a girl. What does it mean to you when I say run like a girl?
It means run fast as you can.
Right? So powerful. Now there's a 3-minute version that's a little bit longer. Just Google Always Like a Girl. You can watch a 3-minute one. If you are captivated by this, I would recommend you do that one. It's a little bit longer. But just think about what Always just did. They didn't talk at all about the quality of their product. They didn't talk about the comfort. They didn't talk about the accessibility or the price or anything. They said, we know that girls' confidence plummets through puberty. Doesn't have to be that way. Let's all become better. Let's all become better, right? Like the little girl, run as fast as you can. That's what it means like to run like a girl. So let's all be better. Let's all become better. We're shepherding a moral transformation so we can be better than we were. All right. I'm going to plug back in. Here we go. Now my Logitech says that you guys can hear me. If you can't hear me, send me a quick chat. Otherwise, I think I'm good to go. All right. All right. All good. Very good. Here we go. We're going to go back to our presentation mode. So there you go. That is your functional transformation. This is your emotional transformation. And that's your moral transformation. We're going to wrap up soon. We are going to do this last story, and this is a story of dreams. Because they say, oh, okay, great. You know, Awesome Foster, P&G, and Always, they got all this money. They got all these big brains. Of course, it's easy for them to tell stories. How do I do it? Well, so let me show you how this structure works. The hero is the customer. Villain's their challenge. The mentor is you. The journey is a service or product, and the transformation is the transformation. So I have a friend, Jose Vicente, and he runs 401k management for employees. So he comes into businesses and talks to the employees about 401k management. I'm joking. No, I love Jose, but it might think like, oh my God, that is so boring. How can you tell a story about 401k management? I manage 401ks for employees. But if you rethink a message structure and put it into a storytelling structure, it all flows and makes sense. The hero, it's Sabrina's mom and dad. The villain, tuition increases. The mentor, Jose and his team. The journey, they've got a 4-step plan. And most importantly, that transformation, the dream of sending Sabrina to her choice school is real. It's just a different way to think about how to structure a message. And here's how this plays out. I know this is a lot of text, but I'll read through it quickly. Like most parents, because you're not alone, So the parents are the hero. You're not alone in this though. You want your child to become the best she can be, of course. And in today's world, that usually means a college education. Okay, I get you. However, here comes the villain. We all face a steep challenge. What's the villain? Tuition rates have increased faster than wages, and 71% of college students carry loans. Oh, so it's not just me. It's not just me, parent, being dumb and I mismanaged my finances. It's not you. Tuition rates have increased faster than wages, and almost all students carry loans. Okay. Enter the mentor. We're also parents, and my team and I understand the challenges facing parents who want to do their best for their kids' education without heaping debt or saying no to a school that could propel them to adulthood. Okay, mentor, I'm going to call you, mentor calls the parents to action. And how are you doing it? What's your plan? I offer a 4-step plan for realistic savings plan. We're with you every step of the way on this important journey. And then lastly is that transformation. The dream of sending Sabrina to the school she chooses could be your happy ending. You have your hero, you have your villain, you have your mentor, you have your journey, and you have your transformation. Now, I am not a professional copywriter. I do write copy, but just applying this storytelling structure, even if you break it down to 5 sentences or 5 short sentences, paragraphs, or whatever it is, detailing each one, you can start getting on the path and on your way towards good storytelling. Even in this presentation, I'm using the darn structure, right? You think about it at the very beginning. You're a marketing person. You face challenges. There are distractions, 4,000 to 10,000 marketing messages a day. I can't cut to my team. I've got all these things that are distracting me from my team. Here's Chris. I'm a mentor. I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you this journey, this path, this storytelling structure. And what's your transformation? You'll be able to more effectively communicate with your customer base. Right, the last 50 minutes, we've just lived the storytelling structure because I'm calling you to action, and you can do it. You can do it. The key takeaway: story structures are the fastest and most effective way to engage your customers with an authentic message. It takes some work, but it's worth it, right? Okay, some resources for you. Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Just look it up. He's made he has made a multi-million-dollar business of doing this for brands. You could take like a 2 to 3 day workshop. He's got a ton of content. He's fantastic. Winning the Story Wars, that's a great one too. That's kind of the genesis of this, but the real genesis, if you really want to go back to the source, it's heavy lifting, but it's worth it. It's called The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. Apparently it was really influential to George Lucas as he was building the Star Wars storyline. He consulted with Joseph Campbell a lot about that hero. That's why you got Luke, and you've got his hero's journey. You've got Yoda the mentor. You've got the rascal of Han Solo, right? You have the redemption of the end with his father Darth Vader. All the storytelling structures that have been in play for truly thousands of years since we could speak to one another. Thousands of years are packed into that Star Wars. That's probably one of the reasons why it was so compelling for folks. So The Hero with 1,000 Faces is your big source. Someone else mentions Expert Secrets too. That's awesome. Okay. All right, a little bit quickly about Modern Postcard, where I work. Direct marketing services to businesses of all sizes and types. We do printing, direct mail, postcard retargeting, and digital direct marketing as well. And I do have your special offer. Let me put this into chat real quick. And I have this queued up. Come on, queue up. Here we go. I'm just going to drop this into chat as soon as this pops up for me. There it is. There it is. I'm going to drop it into chat right now, and I'm going to drop this to everyone in meeting. 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right. We've got a handful of minutes if you want to stay for some just a little bit of Q&A. Some contact information. I am Chris Foster. You can reach me, cfoster@modernpostcard.com, Christopher K. Foster @gmail.com, or LinkedIn. You can find me Chris Foster-San Diego. Okay, some questions. This is from Titilayo. Titilayo asks, what storytelling strategy would you recommend for a page-long personal statement? How would you tell a story of a person's interest in a trading programs and potential contribution? That's a great question. A long personal statement, I believe, usually starts with who you are and then the types of challenges that you might overcome or that you think about, right? I'll just do me as an example. The greatest challenge of my life is being a great parent and a great husband and partner. Those two things sometimes are linked together. Sometimes they are separate. Sometimes they're different stages. I'm going to put my video back on so you can see me. And so it depends on your own personal story, but that is the greatest challenge. How do you balance a full life of being the best father I can be so that my children become the best of us all, the best husband I can be so that my wife and I have the best marriage we can, all while still maintaining a job and a life and all that kind of stuff, right? So that is the challenge, right? Then you try to find, is there a mentor? Do I have a mentor? Hopefully you do, right? But you can build this storytelling structure just like that and think about the kinds of challenges that you have and what your goals are and what you want to become and that transformation you want to reach. Question, what storytelling strategy would you recommend for an English school in San Diego? I would say that if you're a school that's teaching English to folks, to ESL, English as a second language people, the big challenge is everyone wants to fit in. Everybody wants to be able to communicate in America with ease and with effectiveness. And some people are afraid of being considered, either an outsider or the like, but really it's a question of fit. Everyone feels lonelier when they go to a place and they don't understand what people are talking about. Heck, it even happens in social situations when everyone speaks the same language. But, my wife and I had the good fortune to go to France a couple of years ago, and I could speak a little bit, but her pronunciation was better. So I would fumble through my requests and she would speak it or kind of translate it or restate what I would say. And they would look at her and just start talking to her because she's spoken so much better than me. But it's not as great and you feel left out. So that's kind of where I would go, is really hone in on what that villain is, that emotional villain, and think about the transformation. I think for an English school, it's not just an emotional transformation, but it's a moral transformation, right? It is better connectivity with the environment that you're in.
All right. Well, we are right up at noon, and looks like we have got those questions answered. Chris, thank you very, very much for your excellent presentation today, covering all those important topics and excellent examples. For those of you who attended, I will include a link to a copy of Chris's slide deck and also that special offer he mentioned. So look for a follow-up email from me, hopefully later today or tomorrow morning. And then I will also follow up with a second email once the video gets processed and put up on our YouTube channel, so you can also refer back to that in case you want to capture the context of what Chris was talking about from the particular slides. So with that, I will thank everyone for attending. I will thank Chris again for his excellent presentation, and I hope everybody stays healthy, safe, and if you are in Southern California right now, cool. All right, take care.
You got it. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.